Parsha Bamidbar, which is to us the fourth of the five Chumashim. In the language of Chazal, it's called the Chumash Apkudim, the Chumash of the count of the Jewish people. Because in this Chumash, they are counted a number of times. And it seems to be a dominant theme throughout the entire Chumash. The Ramban always calls it Chumash Apkudim. However, thank you. At least somebody's listening. So the Torah wants us to know that the person can have a plague in his house. That there can be such dysfunction in the home that it brings about a plague. The Torah wants us to know that there can be cities that are devoted to idolatry. That you cannot say, it's not going to happen here. You're so holy. The Torah doesn't guarantee any of that. So the Torah came to teach us a value. It came to teach us how to look at things. So even though it cannot be fulfilled exactly, but the lesson, the idea is here. And that is what the Torah wants to convey to us. Now, there has been a struggle in the Meforshim, especially in the Middle Ages. How do we deal with psukim? Are we to deal with them exclusively literally? Ein hamikra yotzei minei pshuto. The pasuk says what it means. Or can we deal with them, so to speak, in an allegorical sense? What's the broad lesson to be learned from it? And the details of the pasuk are not what the Torah concentrates upon. Now, in the time of the Rambam, this was a great debate within Jewish scholarship, because in the non-Jewish world, both the Muslim and the Christian world, this debate raged, and it rages today, even though today it's not at the forefront of the problems that the world faces. But there were those that said that all of the stories are only allegories. The Torah is not telling us exact facts. It's telling us great ideas. And the way to tell great ideas is to tell a story. And we are all well aware that there are no shortage of stories that are not factual. It never happened, but they tell us the idea. The famous anecdote that a chassid came to his Rebbe, and he said he heard this story about this and this Rebbe, that it was, and all sorts of great things, miracles that he performed. And he scoffed at the stories. He said, that's all made up, can't be. And the Rebbe said, he may be right, but they don't tell those stories about you or me. So there's a very, like everything else in Torah, I mean, and I think that's the theme of many of the discussions we've had here on Friday mornings, is that there's a very thin line, a balance, and that the Torah requires a certain sense of sophistication to be able to handle what apparently is fanciful and what is technically meant to be enforced. And there was a period of time that I mentioned when the Rambam was alive, in the 12th century, when the allegorists seemed to have had the upper hand. But in our time, it has been completely reversed. And that if you say that the Torah is an allegory, it just wants to convey a great message, but it's not to be understood literally. So then that's the destruction of Judaism. So it's this balance that we have to deal with here in Chumash Bamidbar, with the count of the Jewish people. We have to have a count. We have to know how many people there are. We shouldn't have a count because of the fact that it can bring about an ayin hara, it can bring about an evil eye, an evil eye. So which is it? And I think that one studies the process of halakha throughout the ages, it will see that there always are conflicting streams. Somebody will come to you and say, is it kosher or is it not kosher? The answer is maybe. What do you mean, maybe? It's supposed to be, you know? Because over the centuries, literally thousands of opinions have been accumulated. And the challenge before the one who has to make a decision is which of the opinions he will follow and which of the opinions he will not follow. And there we have the idea of account, that we attempt to follow the majority opinion, even if they are mistaken. So again, it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of practice. How do we exist in the world? You can't exist in the world on maybes. You have to come to some sort of conclusion. One of the ways to come to a conclusion is to count. How many are here? How many are there? I always have that feeling when I studied the response of Rabbi Avadia Yosef, the great Sephardic Gaon and leader of our time. So he had a sefer called Yabia Omer, he had a sefer called Yechavet Doas. But he literally counts up to what's the score. You got 28 opinions that say mutter, he's got 21 that say osir, so he says, so it's mutter. That's the power of the majority. So that is one of the lessons of the count here in Bamidbar, is the power of the majority. What's the count? Throughout Jewish history, the Sanhedrin based its opinions on the count. The Gemara says, "Afilu mutoim, afilu mesidim." Even if they make a mistake, even if they know they're making a mistake. But if the count is there, it's there. Now, that's a great idea. It's almost revolutionary, but it describes for us the evolvement of halakha throughout the ages and how we meet new situations. So when a new situation arises, for instance, I always add an example, electricity. Electricity, the way we deal with it is 150 years old, maybe. What is electricity relative to halakha? So we deal with it relative to Shabbat, for instance. We don't turn lights on. But depending upon what our definition of electricity is, maybe you can turn it on Yom Tov. And at the beginning of the 20th century, that was a great debate amongst the scholars of Israel. The Orach HaShulchan, and Yechiel Michal Alevi Epstein and others held that electricity, you could turn it on Yom Tov. I remember growing up in Chicago, very fine Jews, very observant Jews, big scholars who turned on the light on Yom Tov. Today, that's unheard of because the majority voted against it. The majority of the poskim, of those who decide halachic matters, said no. We have yet to define what electricity is, but whatever it is, it's not permitted. So numbers are important. There's another idea that has to be thrown into the mix, that every one who has to decide about Halakha has to consider, is that there's something that's called a das yochid, the opinion of one. Sorry. The opinion of one person. So here the rabbis looked at who the person is. The Gaon of Vilna may be one person, but you can't count him as one. And therefore, in the times of necessity, under circumstances that were not foreseen, we will rely on the opinion of one. So you see how the Torah took a very complex view of the value of people and of the value of the opinion of people. And that nothing is discarded, but in order for society to advance, we have to come into situations of clarity and decide matters. So in the count of the Jewish people, all of these things are present. All of these ideas are present. And that has helped chart our way regarding new ideas. I remember, just to conclude, I remember when the word processor of blessed memory came into being. And once had a discussion with Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. What if the word processor has the name of God spelled out on it? Can you close that word process? Can you erase it? Now, if the name of God, so to speak, appears on a piece of paper, you have to put it in the shemos. It requires respect and burial. What about a computer? And he did research on it. It was very interesting. And he said that writing on a computer is not writing because it has no permanence. It's X's and O's that somehow come together. So to us it appears to be writing, but it's not really writing, and therefore there's no problem. There were those who disagreed with him because it's a new question. There were no computers at the time of the Shulchan Aruch. But the vast majority of poskim today are of the opinion that Rabbi Feinstein is correct. And that you can easily eliminate, just hit the button and they're gone. So all of that is involved in the count. The exact count, the approximate count, why the count. Because in life, it reflects itself in various ways. And if it reflects itself in life in various ways, it will reflect itself in halakha as well. I thank you for coming. Have a great Shabbat. I'm happy to tell you that my book has absolutely arrived, and June 10th we will have a book launch, and I thank you all for coming. Call through. Shabbat Shalom.